welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call here with me, Christy Callising, and I'm joined on set right now by
Dr.
Real is in the house.
Yeah, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, my extension in the world. I am Dr. Real. Most of you know me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Christy.
How are you this morning?
Not bad at all, considering the climate at this time in our region.
At least we have some sunlight today.
Yes.
Granted,
But it's unpredictable.
Of course it is. So for those of us who are now interacting with Dr. Real, who exactly is Dr. Real?
Well, first to begin with, I was always the child that came in the first top 10 in class.
Is that so?
But the complaint of the teacher was always the same.
You talk too much.
He's
I think many people in media get that ever since they were young. I got that literally every single report card. Christy is a fantastic student. She talks too much.
Yes.
She's a bit too
And that was a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
I used to actually get scolded for that. But now it has become one of my greatest strengths,
Yes.
because you speak to a camera, you speak before a crowd of people, you articulate, you respond to certain issues, and people are amazed. People always tell me, you're very brave to do that, and it comes naturally to me. And the funny thing about me is that, well, I hail from Freeport, Trinidad.
Right.
So that's central Trinidad, for those of us who don't know, the very few. And my dad, he believed in teaching you about the country. So
I think most of us should kind of get into that groove.
Yeah.
Because we believe after the lighthouse is south.
The funny thing is, my family is a huge one.
Yeah.
I have family all over the world. And Daddy was always insistent on teaching us the country. So, we didn't grow up with a lot, but what he would insist on doing is teaching us our country. So I would have traveled all over Trinidad and Tobago, so I had an extensive knowledge of the country.
Yeah.
And then growing up, I went to school in South after completing primary school in Freeport. And this is a first-time interview. Nobody has heard this on media before.
Yeah, look at that. So this is exclusive. This is getting to know Dr. Real exclusively.
And then throughout my teenage years, I always wanted to work. So from the age of 13, I started doing little odd jobs, while I was going to school and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny how media was something that always chased me down. Because I remember being on TTT, on a youth forum with Hansley Ajoda.
Oh, wow. That is a long time.
Back
Yeah.
in 1998. Yeah, I had just finished school and that kind of thing. So that gives you an idea of how old I am. And then I didn't like the publicity, so I shied away from the camera, and I joined the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, where I, did my best to learn all that I could. I accepted every course available to me. And because of Trinidad and Tobago Police, I was able to travel the world, doing different courses and stuff. And eventually the opportunity came for me, and I went over to Petrotrin.
Yes.
Where in true, real fashion, I would have explored different avenues within the organization. So I would have been exposed to a little bit of HR, security, safety, a little bit of the refinery. And when Petrotrin would have closed on November the 31st, I was at Santa Flora because I had actually told the head of my department that I was interested in learning LN&E. Now, LN&E, for those of you non-Petrotrin people, stands for Lands North and East. Right? You know that. So I actually continued learning the country throughout both of those careers.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because this morning on Synergy TV, where I am now a host of Breaking Dawn, which is a morning show that airs from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., Monday to Friday. It was interesting to see that my co-host didn't know certain parts of Trinidad and Tobago. And it's incidental because you can't speak to the demographic that exists there. You don't know what type of people they are.
Yeah.
And even last week, Friday, I went to Sangre Grande. And people were amazed to see me there because they would be like,
what
aren't
you
you from
here?
South?
Yeah, how you know
Deep
up
South,
here?
you know? How you come Grande? Who brought you here? No, actually, I used to do sales before.
Okay.
Before I got into the police service, I used to do sales for Johnson & Johnson and Dairy. And I learned the country all over again.
Yeah.
So I am what you call a true Trinbagonian.
Yeah, you are. You really are. It's not every day you find somebody who actually knows Trinidad and Tobago like that.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like your favorite part of the country?
I can't choose a part of Trinidad and Tobago that I like above all else, but I like living in South.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because of the mix that you get in terms of culturally. I think I enjoyed growing up in Freeport the most because I would have grown in an integrated community where I grew amongst the Hindus.
Yeah.
I actually performed and was an integral part of Lakshmi Pujas, Ramayana Jag, as we say. And I actually know a lot of Indian culture that even Indian people, frown and raise their eyebrows at. I know a lot of Indian music as well. And then I went to a Muslim secondary school.
Wow.
Right? And I grew up in a Christian household. So,
true Trini. You
exactly.
are the embodiment of a true Trini. Now, you've covered a lot of different areas from sales to the police service to Petrotrin and media, which has been chasing you since you were 13.
Yes.
I believe you just can't get away from it.
Exactly. I realize that, sadly.
Yeah. But tell me something. From Petrotrin, or from the police service into Petrotrin, now into entertainment, the media industry. How has that transition been for you?
Well, the police service into Petrotrin wasn't, I got culture shock when I went to Petrotrin. Because, in the police service, you're in a position of authority. And when I went into Petrotrin, I went into Petrotrin Police, and it was totally different. It was customer oriented, Then you had the hierarchy in the company itself that were, even though they didn't form part of your department, they were more or less senior to you to a certain degree, and then obviously when you transition through different parts of the company, you understand how things work, and then your priorities change, and then now in media, being a public figure, I think I get culture shock every time somebody says Dr. Real. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody else knows me. And I think people look at my page, and because of the fact that I speak to more serious issues or grave concerns of the man on the ground and even the citizens at large, I think that people see me as, a person without fear, and it makes them fearful to talk to me.
Well, I think to be in media, first of all, you have to have that passion and that drive, and you have to naturally be fearless.
Right.
And as somebody like yourself, you're dealing with issues in the public domain.
Correct.
You run the risk of getting backlash.
Correct.
And that is something I'd imagine that you basically train your mind towards receiving. But how is it, balancing those two things?
Well, funny you should ask. Media has taught me so much that people see you on screen.
Yeah.
And they have a perception of you.
Of course.
So they place you accordingly.
Didn't we all do that when we were younger? Of course.
Yes.
You look at somebody on TV and you're like,
they put a certain level of perfection on you. So, for example,
so there's no room for any disappointments in real life.
That's what I'm saying. So what happens is that if you're driving down the street and somebody runs you over, you have to literally woosah that moment. Because the moment you decide to lash out at that person out of normal human feelings, that's the moment you're discredited. That's the moment people have their lot to say, and then you become a topic of discussion.
Of course, they'll drag you on social media,
and that's
a common thing nowadays.
I remember once having to tell social media that, you know, I am a normal human being. And specifically, I said I discuss too. Because people were like, I think there's a guy who's a comedian, so he engaged me on his live. He actually called me, and we were talking about domestic issues relating to your personal life.
Yeah.
You know, like dating and so on, and bad experiences. And I used a few, you know,
expletives.
Possibly,
Yes.
you know. And then he was, I mean, it was funny. They see, when you have different sides, I think people don't know how to marry all the different, you know, aspects of your personality.
I think it comes with a lack of open-mindedness.
Yes.
And that is something
definitely.
we've seen a lot in society.
Yes.
Like you want to talk about something, but then again, you're not open to hearing somebody else's opinion. So you want this, but then at the same time, you're telling me, well, no, you should not think like that.
Correct. And the thing is, Christy, you know, people don't understand that you could be a serious person now.
Yeah.
I could speak to current affairs, and then I could be an entertainer, and I'm like wilding out. You understand? And that's me. And then, you know, I could have the nice baritone voice now for the romantic type of music if you want to be, you know, MC or a DJ or a mic man, as we say in Trinidad. And then you have to adjust to the soca or the hip hop, you know, and you have to, you know, bounce around a little bit.
I guess that's where the name comes in, Dr. Real.
Thank you.
That you're actually real.
People actually gave me that name because the name Real started off with people, because, you know, everybody has a concept about you, as we stated on media. So, you know, when you go out there and you put your truth out there and people, well, judge you, they actually form an opinion. And the general consensus is that, hey, you keep it real, you know, you're real. And that real stuck. And then eventually the doctor part came in where people said, you know, like Dr. Dre.
So you've perfected it.
Yeah.
So you're at that stage.
Yeah. So that's how the whole page, well, the page actually began. I just thought, you know, that I've always been artistic in that I write poetry. I remember once for Father's Day, I wrote a poem for my dad, and my mom laughed at it. And I tell her up to this day, she was just jealous.
You didn't do one for her.
Morning, mommy, going to Suna. Mommy has always been a foundation.
Yes, I was now going to ask you about your support system, because I mean...
See, you're telepathic now. Just discovered a new...
That is something that, you know, not just in media, but in every aspect of your life, you need to have the support of somebody around you. How is your support system like?
Well, first of all, I live alone, but mommy has always been, for the most part, an integral part of my upbringing. Daddy was there, but for the most part, daddy was the breadwinner.
Okay.
So mommy tended to be the person who was always at home, always, you know, with the whip for homework, always.
Well, I guess it paid off, right?
Yes, of course, of course. And she was always the disciplinarian when daddy was the one more to talk, you know. So mommy, up to this day, mommy stayed there. I do not say certain things in front of my mother, and I do not express myself in certain regard in front of her. Yeah. The page was a culture shock for her, because she was like, why are you doing that? Don't you know things can happen to you? But I think now, mommy watches my show now.
Yeah.
Mommy
Hi, mommy. Morning, mommy.
mommy actually told me she worked at Wassa before.
Okay.
And, you know, funny thing, I've always had a job where people think they need to talk to you about something, and they do it quite randomly, you know.
So you'll be washing dishes one day, and then you hear, hey, you know about, is this happening in my job, you know?
And that's the funny thing.
I think I do that too. I think I'm guilty of that.
The funny thing about that is that, you know, if you're a doctor, like a doctor of medicine, every time a patient who knows you're a doctor, or even a neighbor or an acquaintance sees you, the first thing, hey, doc, here, what's going on? You see right here? Again, a little pain.
That is so true.
You know? So, and then as a police officer now, it happens that you would be like, hey, officer, here, what's going on? My family boy next door, you know, they just throw leaves in my yard. The littlest things, people will come. I mean, I'm traveling to JFK. I'm in Piaco, and a guy walks up to me, officer, like you're going outside? I say, yes, I'm traveling to the US. He was like, well, when you come back, I want you to talk to my neighbor for me now, boy. He does be, real cussing and thing, And then when you get to Petrotrin now, everybody feel you could get them a job in Petrotrin. Where you work in HR? Yeah, that's not. I have an application. Well, I'm not really in charge of, that. And throughout my life, people have always been coming to me for help.
But it's nice that, that's a plus, right?
Yeah.
It's nice that you are approachable, so people come and they talk to you, they feel comfortable. Of course, there might be the few who might go overboard. We'll not go there, of course.
The few, you say?
Let's not go there.
It depends.
But let's talk a little bit about your stint at Petrotrin. How long were you there for?
12 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
That is a long time. You were one of those who were unfortunately retrenched.
Yes, on November 31st of 2018.
All right, so
12 years and almost 13 years.
Jeez, that's a long time. How was your stay and how was it at Petrotrin?
Well, Petrotrin, as I told you, it was a culture shock to begin with. But Petrotrin was always the environment where it was sort of a family, and my jobs at Petrotrin had me integrated into mostly every department because I had to liaise across the board. Because, once you fall under the umbrella of Petrotrin Police or even HR and customer service, you know mostly everybody because you have to give an account for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that a lot of people are unaware of. So the volume of people that I have in my arsenal because of Petrotrin would be greater than most of the employees because they don't integrate.
Yeah.
When you work in a particular department, you usually liaise with two departments. But in my departments that I would have worked in, I would have liaised across the board.
Yeah.
Petrotrin was like a family, For certain parts of the year, you would see certain events taking place that would be geared towards team building. So you would have your football leagues and cricket leagues and so on. And those were fun times. But when it comes to the work, it was always a dangerous environment where you were always worried about, your health. And what I was most inspired by at Petrotrin is the aptitude for learning. They always encouraged you to do your studies. You would always get time off to go to school, which was a good thing. And, the company always funded certain sporting activities, as mentioned before. And this was an encouragement there. But when it comes to the wastage and so on, I saw a lot of that too. And I saw the deterioration of Petrotrin from the time I entered to the time,
So
left.
you saw this coming? You saw the...
Well, I didn't see it coming so soon, but it was like slowly like a cancer that was eating Petrotrin. And I think, I might be going out on a limb here, but I think government intervention into Petrotrin, it was the major problem. Because you saw persons coming in because of the government influence, and that sort of top-heavy type of administration is what caused the company to eventually be closed.
Yeah, I know that, just to kind of go off on that topic, I know there's been calls to privatize Petrotrin.
Right.
Do you think that was a good idea? Or?
I support the privatization of Petrotrin, but let a proper procedure, be foretold, before it happens. Let it be forecasted. Let the public have an input into it. And I believe that our local shareholders here could have bought, we as a country, as citizenry, because if you go look in Dubai, you see that the citizens are invested in the oil industry.
Yeah.
And due to the fact that our taxpaying dollars was used, and to the fact that based on the subsidies and different things, we would have benefited. I think the public, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago should have been given the opportunity to own shares in Petrotrin.
Yeah. So in case you're now joining us here on PSA TV, this is the Wake Up Call. On site I've got Dr. Real, and we're going to toss to a really short break right now and come back with more. And welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call. On set I've got with me Dr. Real. He's in the building. Keeping it real, of course.
I like the way you just roll your tongue when you say real.
And of course, we've been chatting here this morning about his transition from sales into the police service, then into Petrotrin, and now into media. Something which has haunted you for I don't know how many years.
Decades.
I'm not gonna try to
2 decades
guess your age. I'm not gonna sell out your age,
yeah,
but
you can
you
sell
know.
out my age, man. 38 special.
Yeah. So
there you go. I tell you get an exclusive this morning. Nobody has ever asked me the questions you've asked and prompted the responses that I've given.
Let's talk a bit about the state of our country. You've been very vocal on social media. I think that's the first place where I spotted you, and I'm like, okay, you make valuable contributions to society.
Thank you.
And it's something that, you know, people often go on social media, they go live, they talk, but what do you get out of it? Mm-hmm. Well, that's for the public to determine. Right. But when it comes down to issues, you have to be informed about it.
Correct.
So we're slowly approaching independence.
Right.
What do you think about the current state of our country?
I think I'm seeing a mirrored effect of what happened in the 70s after the oil boom, where the IMF had to intervene into the running of the country.
Happen here, though.
Because we're borrowing and spending more than we're earning.
Yeah.
And that is of grave concern. I don't think the public is aware of how serious that situation is. And, you know, once I remember hearing the Minister of Works and Transport speak to, we are a laissez-faire society. You know, and that is so true.
It is.
Because we take everything for granted. The price of gas goes up, we go to the pump, we put it in our cars, and we're like, it's not that bad.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? Mm-hmm. When you see the price of gas increases and you see everybody just rush to the pump, as if, as if it's going to carry you throughout.
Even that, when they hear the budget is moving over our heads, we run to the gas station. Okay. Like, that's the best gas we're going to get, and they're going to last us till the next budget.
It's the last gas you're going to get. But yeah, like you were saying, we do operate in a laissez-faire society.
Right. So, and that's unfortunate, and I think that is the reason why we are in the state that we're in.
What state are we in?
Well,
to put it neatly,
and we're in a state of uncertainty. Okay. A state of uncertainty because you see, one administration went out on the backs of corruption, the Emailgate scandal, and then we saw that being thrown down under this administration, and then now we're seeing all kinds of surprises surfacing under this administration. So it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, one and the same.
Huh?
One and the same.
Yeah. Same thing differently. I think though that incidentally, PSA TV, I would be very interested to see what Mr. Watson Duke can do as a political leader. Mm-hmm. I think he has the spirit for, dealing with issues. And he seems to be a no-nonsense person. So I am very curious to see what he would bring to the table if he is, voted into office. Because a lot of people are not seeing this, but on the other side of the union bench, the OWTU, most of its members have lost faith in the union. But I'm pretty sure that's not true for the PSA.
No, it's not.
Even though when I told Mommy I was coming on here, she's like, tell Mr. Duke I used to work at WASA and so on and so on.
I mean, you can't get away from,
Yeah.
You can't get away from it. But I know that's where he would have started his stint into unionism and trade unionism and, at WASA. So,
right.
Yeah.
So he probably has a
Who knows, they're probably friends.
Well, I probably should talk to him after.
We just have about a minute to wrap things up before we head to news. So I'm going to ask you, what is your hope for Trinidad and Tobago as we go forward and as we look forward to our independence?
Well, my hope for Trinidad and Tobago is that the people finally start waking up and realizing that their general modus operandi or attitude towards governance needs to change. And if we do, then we can hopefully see brighter days ahead. Other than that, there's a lot of hopelessness there.
Yeah, and that's not something we want.
Of course not.
Of course, this will be an ongoing discussion. This is just part one of Dr. Real, keeping it real with Dr. Real.
Thank you.
So we'll have you on very soon, very soon.
I appreciate that.
Soon. So I want to thank you so much for coming on this morning. I know it's a long journey from south to town, and then who knows what's after, but thank you so much. We appreciate it here. I mean,
I appreciate being here.
You know, life after retrenchment, like I was telling you yesterday, it's not something that people just pick up themselves and put yourselves together and just say, okay, I'm going to go back out there. Because you're not sure what you're going to face.
Yeah, you're not sure of the challenges, the difficulties,
when you're so rejection, and that's a big thing, but that's a topic for another day, of course.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.